The arena floated in open space, locked between three moons and watched by thousands of ships. Its surface was made of layered metal plates, scarred by old battles. Every mark told a story of victory or defeat. For the alien woman standing at the center, those marks were proof of her people's dominance. She was called Salira of the Cathari, a species bred for combat. Tall, broad-shouldered, with pale blue skin reinforced by natural armor plates, she had never lost a sanctioned duel. Her muscles were dense, her reflexes sharpened by decades of training and genetic enhancement. To her, combat was simple. Power decided everything. Today's opponent stood several meters away. A human. Salira studied him with open disdain. He was shorter, thinner, wrapped in worn combat gear that lacked the glowing enhancements common among advanced species. His armor was scratched, dull, and clearly old. He carried no visible heavy weapons, only a compact blade and a simple kinetic sidearm attached to his leg. The gathered spectators murmured. Humans were relatively new to the wider galaxy. They had survived longer than expected, but no one believed they were serious warriors. They were known for negotiation, stubborn diplomacy, and strange emotional reactions. Not for winning duels against Cathari champions. Salira allowed herself a small smile. This would be quick. The human stood still, helmet removed, brown eyes calm but alert. His name was Elias Ward, a former soldier, now a representative chosen not because he was the strongest, but because he volunteered when no one else could. He knew the odds. He had accepted them anyway. The signal horn echoed through the arena. Salira moved instantly. Her body surged forward with explosive speed, metal plates beneath her feet cracking as she crossed the distance. Her first strike was meant to end the fight, a wide, crushing blow aimed at the human's chest. It was strong enough to shatter stone. Elias barely rolled aside in time. The shockwave still sent him skidding across the floor. Pain flared through his ribs as he scrambled to his feet. Salira turned smoothly, already striking again. Her movements were precise, trained, efficient. Each attack forced Elias backward. He blocked when he could, dodged when he couldn't, and took hits that rattled his bones. To the audience, it looked exactly as expected. The alien woman dominated the field. The human struggled to survive. Salira pressed harder. She landed a heavy kick that slammed Elias into a metal barrier. He coughed, tasting blood, but forced himself upright. His body screamed at him to slow down. He ignored it. Interesting, Salira thought. Most would already be unconscious. She attacked again, faster this time, testing his limits. Elias raised his blade, not to strike, but to redirect. He twisted his body, letting her strength carry her past him. It was clumsy, barely effective, but it worked just enough. Salira frowned. He wasn't trying to overpower her. He was observing. Elias's mind worked rapidly, even as pain dulled his senses. He counted her steps, the timing of her strikes, the way her shoulders shifted before each attack. She favored her right side. Her armor left small gaps when she overextended. Every hit he took taught him something. Salira grew irritated. She increased her speed, her strikes becoming relentless. She slammed him to the ground and raised her foot to crush his arm. At the last second, Elias rolled. Her foot crashed down where his arm had been moments earlier. He came up behind her, blade flashing. The strike didn't penetrate her armor, but it scraped along a joint, leaving a shallow cut. The crowd went silent. Salira spun, eyes wide with surprise. The human had drawn blood. It was nothing, barely a scratch. But it was enough to unsettle her. No opponent had ever landed a clean strike on her so early in a fight. She snarled and lunged again, anger creeping into her movements. That was a mistake. Elias retreated, leading her toward uneven terrain where old impact craters disrupted footing. Salira followed, confident she could overwhelm him anywhere. Her confidence blinded her to the shift in control. She slipped slightly on a damaged plate, just a fraction of a second. Elias used it. He drove his shoulder into her side. Not to hurt her, but to throw off her balance. Salira stumbled, recovering quickly. But the moment had passed. The human was no longer merely reacting. Sailira struck him across the face with the back of her hand. Elias flew, rolling across the ground. His vision blurred. His ears rang. He lay still for a heartbeat too long. The spectators leaned forward. Sailira approached, breathing steady, confident again. She raised her weapon arm for the finishing blow. Elias moved. He kicked upward, catching her knee at an angle. The joint buckled slightly. Sailira staggered back, more shocked than hurt. Elias forced himself up, muscles burning, lungs on fire. He should not be standing, yet he was. Sailira stared at him, confusion flickering across her face. "Why do you continue?" she demanded through the arena's translators. "You cannot win." Elias wiped blood from his mouth. He didn't answer. Words wouldn't help. Only time would. He circled her slowly, limping but steady. His eyes never left hers. He had seen this before in training, in war, in battles where survival depended on learning faster than the enemy. Sailira attacked again, but now Elias anticipated her movements. He avoided her strongest blows by inches, each dodge tighter than the last. He countered with small, precise strikes, not meant to kill, but to test. Her frustration grew. She was stronger, faster, better equipped, and yet the human refused to break. The arena echoed with the sound of impacts, heavy alien strikes against human endurance. Elias's body absorbed punishment no other species would tolerate. Pain became background noise. Fear sharpened his focus. He remembered old lessons drilled into him long ago. Humans weren't built to be perfect. They were built to survive mistakes. Sailira finally landed a direct blow to his chest. The force lifted him off the ground and slammed him down hard. Something cracked. Elias gasped, struggling to breathe. Sailira stood over him, certain this time. "Enough," she said coldly. Elias lay still, chest heaving. His vision narrowed. The arena lights blurred. Then he pushed himself up again, not quickly, not gracefully, but deliberately. The crowd erupted into shocked murmurs. Sailira stepped back, unsettled despite herself. This was wrong. This was not how inferior species behaved. He should have stayed down. He should have begged for mercy. Instead, he stood there, broken and breathing, eyes still focused. Sailira felt something unfamiliar tighten in her chest. Doubt. She had underestimated him. Not his strength, but his refusal to surrender. Whatever humans lacked in raw power, they made up for with something she could not measure. The signal horn sounded again, marking the end of the first combat phase. Sailira retreated a step, forced by protocol to pause. Elias leaned on his blade, barely upright, but unyielding. As the arena reset around them, one truth settled heavily in Sailira's mind. This human was not fighting to win quickly. He was fighting to last. And for the first time in her long warrior life, Sailira realized that might be far more dangerous than strength alone. The pause ended, and the arena plates shifted again, locking into a new pattern. Energy barriers flickered briefly at the edges, then vanished. The crowd settled, waiting. The second phase of the duel had begun. Sailira straightened her posture and forced her breathing to remain calm. She refused to let doubt show. She was Cathari. She was superior. One stubborn human did not change that truth. Elias stood several steps away, chest aching with every breath. One rib was cracked, maybe more. His left arm felt heavy, numb along the forearm. He flexed his fingers slowly, making sure he could still grip his blade. Pain pulsed through him, but it was familiar. He had fought through worse. Sailira charged without warning. This time Elias did not retreat blindly. He shifted sideways, letting her pass close enough that he could feel the rush of displaced air. Her strike smashed into the ground where he had been, tearing metal free in sharp fragments. Elias countered with a quick cut at her leg. The blade glanced off armor, but the impact forced her to turn awkwardly. It was small. It was imperfect, but it was enough to keep her from settling into a rhythm. Sailira snarled and unleashed a rapid sequence of blows, faster than before. Elias blocked 2, dodged 1, and took the 4th across his shoulder. The impact dropped him to one knee. The audience roared. Sailira stepped in, ready to finish it. Elias rolled forward instead of back, moving into her reach. The unexpected motion threw off her timing. He struck upward with the hilt of his blade, connecting with the side of her jaw. It did not break bone, but it snapped her head sideways. She reeled, stunned more by the audacity than the pain. Humans should not attack like this. Elias forced himself upright, breathing hard. His movements were slower now, but more controlled. Every motion had purpose. He circled Sailira again, eyes scanning, measuring. Sailira felt anger rise. She activated a low-level combat enhancement, her muscles tightening, her reflexes sharpening further. The glow beneath her armor brightened faintly. She attacked again, stronger than before. Elias was driven back step by step. He barely avoided being crushed against a raised platform. Metal bent under Sailira's strikes. Sparks filled the air. Then Elias did something unexpected. He let himself fall. Sailira's strike passed overhead as Elias dropped flat, sliding beneath her swing. He rolled, came up behind her, and slammed his shoulder into the back of her knee. The joint bent again. Just enough. Sailira stumbled forward, catching herself with one hand. Elias swung his blade at the exposed gap near her armor joint. The cut was shallow, but it struck flesh. More blood. The crowd fell silent again. Sailira roared and spun, slamming Elias away with brute force. He hit the ground hard. Air knocked from his lungs. For a moment, he couldn't move. Sailira stood over him, chest heaving now. This fight was wrong. She was winning, but it did not feel like victory. Every exchange cost her more effort than it should. "Stay down," she growled. Elias coughed, gasping for breath. His vision swam. His body begged him to stop. He ignored it. He pushed himself up again, slowly. The spectators could not understand it. Other species would have surrendered long ago. Pain signals would have shut their bodies down. Humans did not work that way. Pain warned, but it did not command. Sailira struck him again, a heavy blow to the ribs. Elias cried out as something cracked further. He staggered, nearly falling. Sailira followed with another strike. Elias caught it, not cleanly. His arms shook under the force. His grip slipped. But for a moment, he held her. Sailira froze, stunned. No one had ever stopped her like this. Elias twisted, using his weight and her momentum together. He dragged her arm downward and slammed his elbow into her exposed side. The hit forced the air from her lungs. She shoved him away, retreating a step. They stared at each other now, both breathing hard. Sailira's confidence was fractured. She was stronger. But the human was turning every mistake, every injury, into something useful. He was adapting faster than her enhancements could compensate for. Elias wiped blood from his face. His legs shook, but he stayed upright. He had mapped her movements now. Her speed, her reach, her habits. He knew where she hesitated, where she overcommitted. The fight resumed. Sailira attacked with renewed fury. But her strikes were less precise. Emotion crept in. Elias took advantage of every opening. He struck her joints, her balance points, places that would never matter in a short fight, but mattered now. Minutes stretched. Elias's vision dimmed at the edges. He was running on stubbornness and memory. Old training. Old wars. Times when stopping meant dying. Sailira felt fatigue for the first time in years. Her enhancements burned energy rapidly. This duel was lasting far longer than planned. She leaped back and activated a stronger mode. Her armor flared with light. Her strength surged again. The crowd reacted with excitement. Sailira launched herself forward with crushing force. Elias braced himself. He could not outrun her now. He could not outpower her, so he did the only thing he could. He endured. The impact sent him flying. He hit the ground and skidded, armor scraping away. His weapon slid from his grasp. Sailira advanced, confident, once more. She raised her arm for a final strike. Elias reached for the ground instead of his weapon. He grabbed loose metal debris and hurled it upward. It struck Sailira's face, momentarily blinding her. She recoiled, swiping at the air. Elias lunged forward, tackling her legs. They crashed to the ground together. The arena erupted in noise. They rolled, grappling. Sailira tried to crush him with her weight. Elias hooked an arm around her neck, not strong enough to choke her, but enough to restrict movement. She slammed him into the ground repeatedly. His grip loosened. His strength faded. Still, he did not let go. Sailira finally threw him off and stood, breathing hard, armor scuffed and bloodied. Elias lay on his back, chest barely rising. She stepped toward him slowly. "Enough," she said again, quieter this time. Elias rolled onto his side and pushed himself up to one knee. The crowd went silent. Sailira stopped. Something shifted inside her. This was no longer about dominance. This was something else. A test she did not understand. Elias rose again, shaking, barely stable. He did not charge. He did not threaten. He simply stood. The signal horn sounded once more, ending the second phase. Sailira stepped back, obeying protocol. Elias remained standing, by sheer force of will. As the arena reset again, Sailira looked at the human differently. He was wounded. He was exhausted. He should have been defeated. Yet he was still there. And for the first time, Sailira felt a cold realization settle into her mind. If this fight continued much longer, strength alone might not be enough to stop him. The third phase began without ceremony. The arena lights dimmed slightly, signaling escalation. The surface plates shifted again, rising into uneven heights, broken ridges, and narrow paths meant to test balance and awareness. This phase was designed to end fights. Sailira stood still for a moment, watching the human. Her chest rose and fell faster now. Blood from shallow cuts darkened parts of her armor. She had never entered a third phase in this condition before. Elias stood across from her, swaying slightly. His body felt heavy, like it belonged to someone else. Every breath burned. His ribs screamed with pain, and his left arm barely responded. He clenched his jaw and stayed upright. The horn sounded. Sailira moved first, but not recklessly. She had learned. Her steps were measured, her strikes calculated. She circled Elias, forcing him toward higher ground where movement would be harder. Elias followed her motion, slower now, but focused. His mind was sharp, even if his body was failing. He noted how she avoided certain steps, how her left leg hesitated when she put weight on it. That joint again. Sailira lunged. Elias blocked too late. The impact threw him sideways. He hit a raised plate and slid down hard, scraping armor and skin. He struggled to rise. Breath hitching, Sailira closed in, pressing the advantage. Her strikes came in heavy arcs, designed to crush rather than cut. Elias dodged one, barely avoided another, and took the third across his side. Pain exploded through him. His legs buckled. He dropped to one knee. The crowd reacted instantly, sound swelling through the arena. Many believed this was the end. Even Sailira thought it might be. She raised her arm, enhancement energy flaring brighter than before. This strike would end it. Elias looked up at her, not with fear, with focus. Sailira hesitated for half a second. It was the wrong choice. Elias surged forward unexpectedly, ramming his shoulder into her injured leg. The joint failed completely this time. Sailira crashed down, armor slamming against metal. Elias followed her to the ground, slower than before, but determined. He drove his weight into her, pinning her damaged leg. He struck at her armor joints again and again, not hard enough to break through, but enough to force her to react. Sailira roared and shoved him off with raw strength. Elias rolled away, coughing, vision blurring. She forced herself back up, favoring one leg now. Rage burned in her eyes. "You should be broken," she said, voice tight. Elias didn't answer. He dragged himself upright using a raised plate for support. His blade lay several meters away, unreachable. Celira charged again. Elias backed toward a narrow ridge between two raised sections. One wrong step would send either of them tumbling down a sharp incline. Celira attacked with a powerful overhead strike. Elias stepped inside her reach, letting the blow pass inches from his head. He grabbed her arm with both hands, ignoring the pain in his ribs, and twisted. It wasn't strength that moved her. It was leverage. Celira lost balance and stumbled forward. Elias used the moment to hook his foot behind hers and shove. They both fell onto the ridge. The impact rattled both of them. Elias nearly blacked out. Celira slammed hard, armor denting further. They lay there for a brief second, staring at the artificial sky above. Then Celira moved first. She grabbed Elias by the chest and lifted him partially off the ground. Her grip tightened, crushing armor plates inward. Elias gasped, hands clawing at her arm. She was stronger. Always had been. Elias felt darkness creeping in. His fingers slipped. His strength faded. Then something inside him hardened. Not anger. Resolve. He drove his thumb into a damaged seam near her wrist, exactly where he had seen her armor flex earlier. The pressure wasn't much, but it hit nerves beneath. Celira cried out and released him instinctively. Elias fell back, dragging in air, chest burning. He rolled away before she could grab him again. Celira pushed herself upright slowly. Her movements were no longer smooth. The enhancement glow flickered. Fatigue had arrived. She attacked again, but her timing was off. Elias saw it. He dodged, countered with a kick to her injured leg. She fell again. Harder this time. The crowd was silent now. Elias stood over her briefly, then stepped back. He could barely stand himself. His vision pulsed, his ears rang. Celira rose again, trembling but furious. "I will not lose to you," she said. Elias wiped blood from his eyes. "I know," he replied quietly. His first words in the fight. Celira charged with everything she had left. Elias braced. He could not dodge this one. He planted his feet and met her head on. The collision was brutal. They crashed together, armor and flesh colliding with a sound like breaking metal. Elias felt something tear in his side. Celira grunted as the impact drove air from her lungs. They staggered apart. Both nearly fell. Celira tried to lift her arm again. It shook violently. Her enhancement flickered and died completely, drained. She stared at her arm in disbelief. Elias saw it. He moved. Not fast, but relentless. He struck her leg again. She collapsed to one knee. He hit her shoulder joint. Her arm dropped uselessly. Celira looked up at him, breathing hard, eyes wide. This was impossible. She tried to stand and failed. Elias stood over her, swaying. He could barely feel his legs. He could barely breathe, but he was still standing. Celira searched his face for hatred, for triumph. She found none, only exhaustion and determination. She lowered her head slowly, acknowledgement passing through her posture. Not surrender, but understanding. The horn sounded, long and loud, signaling the end of the third phase. Medical drones moved along the edges but did not enter yet. Elias stepped back, nearly collapsing. He leaned against a raised plate to stay upright. Celira remained kneeling, chest heaving. She had never felt this before. Not defeat. Realization. The human had not beaten her with strength. He had not beaten her with speed or technology. He had beaten her by refusing to stop. As the arena lights shifted again in preparation for the final phase, Celira looked at Elias with new eyes. This fight was no longer about proving superiority. It was about survival. And for the first time, Celira understood something terrifying. If the human could still stand now, then the final phase would not end the way she once believed. It would end on human terms. The final phase began in silence. The arena plates stopped moving and locked into place, forming a wide open space. No cover. No uneven ground. This phase existed for only one purpose: to decide who could no longer continue. Not by rules, not by points, by will. Medical drones hovered at the edges, waiting. The crowd was quiet now, no longer eager for spectacle. They were watching something they did not fully understand. Celira remained on one knee for a moment longer. Her breathing was uneven. Pain throbbed through her leg and shoulder. Her combat enhancements were empty, their energy reserves fully drained. She had relied on them for most of her life. Now they were gone. She pushed herself up slowly. Elias stood across from her, leaning heavily on his blade. His armor was broken in places. Blood soaked into the ground beneath his boots. Every breath hurt. His body felt close to shutting down. But his mind stayed clear. The horn sounded for the last time. Celira stepped forward carefully. Each movement sent pain through her leg. But she ignored it. Pride demanded she finish this standing. Elias raised his head and met her gaze. Neither charged. They circled each other slowly. Two exhausted warriors held upright by stubbornness alone. Celira struck first. Not with power, but with precision. Elias blocked weakly, his arms shaking. The impact nearly knocked the blade from his hand. He stepped back, boots scraping against metal. Celira followed, pressing him, but her movements lacked their earlier speed. Elias noticed. He avoided a strike by inches and countered with a short punch to her ribs. It hurt her more than she expected. She staggered. Elias did not chase. He simply stayed on his feet. Celira attacked again, frustration rising. Elias took the blow to his shoulder and nearly fell. He caught himself and stayed upright, gasping. The crowd watched in silence as two fighters, both clearly past their limits, refused to stop. Celira felt something crack inside her chest. Not bone, certainty. She had believed strength was everything. She had believed dominance decided outcomes. Now she faced an opponent who fought even when his body begged him not to. She hesitated again. Elias saw it. He moved forward, every step heavy. He swung his blade, not fast, not strong, but aimed where her armor was weakest. Celira tried to block, but her arm was too slow. The blade struck and slid deep enough to hurt. She cried out and fell back, landing hard. Elias dropped to one knee himself. Vision swimming. They were both done. Celira lay on her back, staring at the sky. Her chest rose and fell rapidly. She tried to push herself up and failed. Her body refused to obey. Elias forced himself upright again, using his blade as support. He stood there, barely balanced, looking down at her. Protocol allowed him to finish it. He didn't move. The arena remained silent. Celira slowly turned her head toward him. She expected anger. She expected triumph. She saw none. "Why?" she asked, voice quiet. "Why do you still stand?" Elias swallowed and found his voice. "Because stopping means losing," he said simply. Celira laughed weakly, then winced in pain. "You are broken. So are you," Elias replied. He took a step back and lowered his blade. "I won't strike you while you can't stand," he said. The words rippled through the arena like a shockwave. Celira stared at him, disbelief clear on her face. In her culture, mercy was weakness. Yet this human, barely able to breathe, chose restraint. Slowly, carefully, Celira forced herself to sit up. It took everything she had. Elias remained where he was, watching, ready to steady himself if needed. She did not attack. She did not try to rise again. Instead, she lowered her head. The horn sounded again, long and final. The duel was over. Medical drones rushed in immediately, surrounding both fighters. Support fields stabilized Elias as his legs finally gave out. He collapsed onto his back, chest heaving, eyes staring at the sky. Celira was lifted carefully onto a medical platform. As they worked, she turned her head to look at the human one last time. He was unconscious now, but still alive, still standing in spirit. The arena erupted not with cheers, but with stunned murmurs. Records were already being transmitted across the galaxy. Analysts replayed every moment, trying to understand what they had witnessed. A human had faced a Kethari champion, and had not fallen. Later, in the medical bay, Celira regained consciousness first. Painkillers dulled the worst of it, but clarity remained. Her body would heal. Her pride would not return so easily. An elder of her people stood nearby, watching her carefully. "You were defeated," the elder said, not unkindly. Celira shook her head slowly. "No," she replied. "I was taught." The elder said nothing. Hours later, Elias awoke in a separate bay. His body ached beyond words. But he was alive. Human medics worked quietly around him. A representative from the council approached his bedside. "You could have ended it," they said. Elias nodded weakly. "I know. Why didn't you?" He thought for a moment. "Because proving a point doesn't always mean destroying someone." The representative studied him, then nodded and left. Across the galaxy, the story spread, not of a human victory, but of human endurance. Worlds that once dismissed humanity reconsidered their assumptions. Military academies added new case studies. Diplomats spoke differently in negotiations. Celira returned to her people changed. She trained differently now. She taught her students not to underestimate those who fought without advantage. She taught them fear. Elias returned home quietly. He did not seek fame. He healed. He trained. He moved on. But the galaxy remembered. They remembered the day an alien warrior believed victory was certain, and the moment she realized she was wrong. Because humanity did not win by being the strongest. Humanity won by refusing to stop, even when everything said they should.